Hi guys, welcome to this video. So I'm going to be talking about native development and cross-platform development. So which should you actually use? So I'm going to talk of native development. I am talking of um, iOS and Android native versus some cross-platform where we have frameworks like React Native, we have Flutter, we have Ionic, and a number of them. So should you build your app using Android or iOS native or just go by the cross platform? Well, there's no perfect answer to this question. It all depends on what you are building, your budget, and the timeline you have to deliver a particular product. So I'm going to breaking this down now. So for Android, you use a language like Kotlin or Java for older versions, and for iOS for older versions you have Objective C, and more commonly people you use Swift for iOS development. So, and the advantage of using native is the fact that you have full access to your system APIs, and you have the best performance on native, and you have complete control over the behavior of your application and complete control also over your UI. So, and you should go native when performance really matters to you. So, if it's you want the best performance for your application, just go native. So, you find out that apps like Instagram, WhatsApp, banking application are majorly built on native code than they don't usually use. Even if maybe like what Instagram may have a little touch of React Native, but largely it is native code that is used. And if you know your app is going to involve you having a lot of animation, so if you see social media applications like TikTok and the likes, they always make use of native application. When you know you have to access background services, your Bluetooth sensors, or you want a platform specific behavior. Maybe there's something you want that you know only Android can do. Let's say you want to access NFC. So it's best in that kind of condition that you make use of native APIs, native development. And so what are the advantages of using native development? Firstly, you get the best performance with native. You have a mature tooling, so the IDs are built for you. There are a lot of tools that the ID of each of the native platform comes with that makes it very easy to use. And you have full API access, so you're not limited in what you can access compared to when you're using cross-platform. Now, so the downside to native development is you need two separate teams or skill sets for native development. So meaning you have to have your Android team, you have to have your iOS team, or if you're an indie developer, you are going to have to learn both Android, as you learn Kotlin or Java, and learn Swift for iOS. You have higher development costs for when you're using native, and at the beginning of the application. So at the beginning of your project, you have to set up two separate projects. So you have slower initial development. So for cross-platform development, it allows you to write your code once and you can build to any of the platforms. So you can build to Android, you can build to iOS, that's like iPhones. So it saves you the stress of learning two programming languages or learning how two different operating systems work. So React Native and Flutter are cross-platform framework, and they are by far the most popular cross-platform framework. React Native was built by the Meta team back then when it was Facebook, and Flutter is built by Google. So you write one code base and you deploy it to both platforms. React Native uses JavaScript, and for older architecture of React Native, it uses the bridge to compile it to native components. Then you have Flutter, which renders its own high performance UI engine. So it has its own engine. We have Skia and other engines that Flutter uses to render it. So Flutter uses the Dart programming language, while React Native uses the JavaScript programming language. So when should your team use React Native? You already know JavaScript or React. on your team. So your team are already familiar with how React work or how JavaScript work, then React Native is the best option to go for in that kind of situation. And you just have an application like an e-commerce application where you just have the UI and make API calls, and you want to deliver this project very fast, or you want your code to be sharing with the web, so you can compile the React Native with the web. So in that condition, you should go with React Native. So React Native is just great, and it's perfect for building dashboard, content-based application, MVPs, and you can reuse your logic across the platforms. So you don't need to build for iOS or Android. Just one logic works across board. Now, what are the advantages? Faster development. We have, and why I would say faster development, because you don't need to have two code bases for the two different operating systems. Just one code base is fine. You have a larger ecosystem. So React Native, because of the JavaScript it comes from, has a large ecosystem. So you have a lot of libraries already available that you can use, that you don't have to write from the scratch. And when you have problem, there are a lot of developer communities that you can reach out to help you resolve it. And it's easier to get people since it has a large ecosystem. Hiring for it is easier. Now there are downsides to it. Bridge performance limitations. So at times the bridge, so at times you can see React Native application kind of lags because of the bridge performance limitations. When you need to access native APIs, maybe like NFC and some other native API, you have to build native module. So meaning you build a native module for Android and build another native module for iOS. And debugging on React Native can be very tricky. So you have to start doing the whole of console log and understanding how the rendering is happening for you to debug. So when should you use Flutter? When your application does not heavily rely on native components. So your app looks identical everywhere. And that's how you see that startup they love Flutter because it's fast, expressive, and visually consistent across board. So if you use Flutter when you want like your a pixel perfect UI, consistent design. So it's a startup or you need to build MVP because you want to meet maybe investors. Flutter is the go-to option there. And if you want to have custom animation without writing native code, then Flutter is also your go-to person. And the downside to using Flutter is that you can have a very large app size with Flutter, very large app size. It has a smaller ecosystem than React Native, so meaning you have lesser people using it, but you still have a good number of people that use Flutter. But compared to React Native community, it has a smaller ecosystem, and it has less platform native feel by default. So it doesn't really give that maybe native feel of what your native gives, like your native application gives on that particular platform. So how should you make your decision for going for native, React Native, or Flutter? If performance and platform specific features matter to your application, stick to native. If speed and shared code matters, stay with React Native. If UI consistency and you want to build an MVP, then just go for Flutter. So let me just give you, let's make scenarios. So let's say you're building an MVP and you have a very limited budget. You can do Flutter or React Native. Any of them will be good. If you're building a banking application, a fintech application, remember in these systems, security matters, performance matters, and you want stability of your application. So just stick to native. And if you're building a content or just a social app which is going to be mostly APIs and just your user interface, then React Native works great for you. So there is no best technology. The best choice is the one that solves your problem with the least complexity. Big companies use all three, often together. Learn native fundamentals first, then you can move on to cross-platform framework. So if this video has helped you choose the right stack, like and subscribe to my channel. Comment what you're building. I'd like to tell you what to choose, or you get my opinion on what you choose for that particular system.